And so we're using taxpayer money so these Mexican children can go back to Mexico and see their family. But on top of that, our taxpayer money is being used to get these illegals a citizenship. We're back. That's right. Every single day, I will be having a video out, something to do with the committee or committees. And this one I'm doing a little bit differently. There was a meeting 2 nights ago that I still need to do, but there was a meeting tonight or last night for the Administration and Finance Committee. So I'm going to do that one now, and then I'll do tomorrow will be the one from 2 days ago. And the reason why I'm doing this one now is because I saw these two little twerps right here post on Twitter about their meeting last night. And here's old Nicole Roberts. So this little twerp. Let me see if I get the voice right. At last night's committee meeting to the Admin and Finance Committee, I was proud to vote for the spring fiscal package where allocates resources for many crucial projects, including designing a new, highly needed headquarters for IMPD New York District. Additionally, DPW money for many important projects, including improving our streets, stormwater infrastructure, and pedestrian safety. The beginning stages of our new Indianapolis Animal Care Services shelter. Remember, this guy is okay with spending taxpayers' money because he doesn't really have to pay any. He lives with his parents, he has no full-time job, he basically has everything given to him on a golden platter. He has no problem spending your money. Why would he? And then we have trust fund baby Andy Nielsen, which I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure on this. I'm not very confident on this, but I'm pretty sure he married his sister. I don't know. I've seen her in person too at the very first council meeting this year, and I thought for sure they were related. Like, hey, big bro, hey, or twin bro, here to pick you up, and then I found out that he was married. I thought it was a fake ring, but maybe it was his beard. I'm not sure. But anyway, he goes on to say, during admin and finance last night, I was glad to support two proposals as part of the spring fiscal package, including money for permanent supportive transitioning housing for the new IFD Station 20 that serves Community Heights and Irvington, and for School Zone Safety Program pilot. As we look to 2025 budget, I will be advocating for additional funding for housing first strategies for neighbors, as well as more targeted, rapid response funding to address our most problematic streets and intersections. Not one time did he talk about enforcing the law. And you know what? If you're so concerned about housing first strategies, why don't you let them live with you, Andy? You got plenty of room. You got a very large home. So why don't you just let these junkies stay with you? I'm sure, listen, front yard, backyard, inside, let them use the shitter. No big deal. I mean, just set the standard. You and Jesse Clown Brown. Anyway, let's get to the video.
Seeing you have a quorum, the councilors introduce themselves, starting to my left.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Brian Mowry, District 25.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike Dilk, District 24.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Paul Ane, District 22.
Thank you. Now to my right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nick Roberts, District 4, Geisen Castle area.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, colleagues. Andy Nielsen, District 14, East Side.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dan Boots, Lawrence, Washington Townships.
Good evening, Chairman Mascari, Krista Carlino, District 11, West Side.
Good evening, Maggie Lewis, District 5.
Good evening, Frank Mascari, District 19 on the southeast side.
Wait a minute. I'm going to have to go back to the film, but I'm pretty sure like Maggie Lewis doesn't show up to these meetings.
Looks like we have 4 items on the agenda. The first one, I understand the proposal of 176 appoints Ebony Chappell to the Alcoholic Beverage Board of Marion County. She is not here. Is this correct? She is not. I'd like to move to have consensus to move her to the next meeting. 174. All right. Up next.
Do not adjust anything. You are watching what I'm watching. The time of him speaking or everybody speaking and their lips moving is completely off. As usual, our $1.5 billion budget cannot straighten this out.
Next is Proposal 132, 2024. Authorize the City Controller to amend the City-County Deferred Compensation Plan to amend the City of Indianapolis investment policy to allow for advisory committees. Brett?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you.
Members of the committee, my name is Brett Weininger. I'm Deputy Controller with Office of Finance and Management for Risk and Procurement. Tonight I have a few guests with me in the audience just in case there's something I can't answer, which is Ms. Amy Halpert, who is with us from Midwest Deferred Compensation, as well as Mike McGee and Owen Atkinson. We also have Director Angela Greider from the Marion County Sheriff's Office with us tonight as well. I want to start by just explaining, just in case it's helpful, our deferred compensation system. We currently have a record keeper with One America, and with that, it covers all county and city agencies with the exception of the Indianapolis Fire Department. And within the record keeper contracts, we have three different plans. One is for the county, one is for the city in general, and one is for IMPD, which is an elective plan for officers to be able to receive financial advisory services. This is part of the FOP group or plan, and something that's been in place for well over a decade now. As we have seen over the years, we've had a lot of cross-pollination between the Sheriff's Department and IMPD. As we've had merger, demerger, we've had a lot of staff that have been former IMPD as well as former Sheriff's Office. And this has resulted in the last couple of years of a lot of inquiries about extending those services to Sheriff's deputies and the staff over at the Marion County Sheriff's Office. With that said, this proposal tonight is doing two things. One, we are expanding that service to MCSO so that those officers or those deputies can actually get that financial advisory services. We're also trying to do something that our consultant, Capital Cities, also has advised us to do, something we attempted to do under former Councilor Cadora, but we just simply never, I believe, got it off the ground. But we'd like to get that off the ground now, which is the formulation of advisory committees. This is something that is compliant with the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, or ERISA. It's just a measure we want to take to be fiduciarily responsible. Even though we're not covered by ERISA, it's something that we try to stick with in order to make the program more fiduciarily responsible. With that said, we'd appreciate your support on this, and open for any questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. With the advisory boards, do we already have the advisory board, or is somebody creating?
This is something that we would be developing a little more formalized. Actually, IMPD has a very good example of that right now that they've been doing with FOP leadership at IMPD, as well as now they've allowed me to attend those as well on behalf of the controller. So these are ones where we are meeting, but I think we would just try to formalize those a little bit more, make sure that we have good representation on there, and that they would actually be, as amending into our policy, review of investment platforms, establishing investment policy objectives and guidelines, and just making sure that our investment options are correct and reviewed by all parties before it would go to the controller for final signature and approval.
My question would be, who would be the makeup of this advisory board?
I think,
an
Chair.
array of different people? Or?
It would mostly be an array of different people. For instance, with IFD currently we have staff from 416 as well as leadership at IFD.
416 is the IFD. You know, from what it sounds like, it looks like they're just having an advisory board on what to invest their money on, and everybody else does but them. And I say, well, we want a piece of that pie because in case you guys haven't been paying attention in the last couple of years, it's not going well, and it's just about to be over. And they're trying to protect their investment right now and making sure that they have. It's weird that they need the council's permission for this, but because they're publicly funded, I guess that's why they need it.
As well as at least a member of OFM to represent the controller on those committees as well, and even possibly an outside party, if necessary, that has financial experience to help kind of be a cross-check to our current consultant.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the councilors? Come on. Okay.
They just want to get out of here, man.
Councilor Boots.
If I must.
I
Thank
must.
you, Mr. Chairman.
I was told to be quick, Councilor. I'm sorry if I didn't.
Not at all. Just following Chairman Muscari's questions, so the appointments are not the administration or the council makeup.
Correct.
This is advisory council of
Yes.
more knowledgeable people.
Absolutely.
Not the appointees are not knowledgeable, but this is people in the know, in the
Screenshot. Look at that. Carlino with her 5 bracelets. They're like bed notches.
field.
On her
helping
phone,
advise
goofing around.
with respect to these financial matters.
Yeah, I think the controller deserves to have, I think, the thorough review of these changes
Probably
or
working
menu
on a
options
booty
before
call or something.
it would get to her or any future controller as adoption. So yes, we would want to have financial experience on there.
And going forward, would this makeup of the council, of the advisory boards, come back to us for approval? Whereas once we approve this, it shall move forward?
It would move
on
forward,
its own?
Counselor. It's more of an administrative
Yeah.
action carried out by the controller as well as Office of Finance and Management and those groups and parties involved with those different plans as they applicable to those departments that
Great, all right,
they
thank you.
affect.
Thank you. Any other questions, counselors? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to make a motion.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move proposal number 132 to the full council with a due pass recommendation.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Have it. Thank you, Brett.
Thank
We
you, Mr. Chair.
appreciate
Thank
you
you,
coming in. You can go home and watch the game now. Yeah, it's what we'll watch
Oh,
now.
yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
up
who
next
cares, right? Let's just focus on sports ball, not who's controlling our money, right?
is proposal 133, transfers an existing appropriation from various city county funds, the use of various city county departments, departments and agencies, appropriates $35,434,038 of funds previously appropriated, including but not limited to additional grant awards. And I see we have Ms. Sarah Reardon in. Are you going to do this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You got the floor.
Oh, that's
I'm Sarah Reardon. I'm the city controller, and with me is
Oh,
Abby.
that's why. All right, that's what the shit. That's why I don't have a video on these. So I'm just checking right now here. I'm going to show you. I know I'm breaking this up real quick, but this is important to see. So this was the one that we're watching right now. They had one that was for literally 3 minutes back in March, and they had one for 14 minutes back in January. And I don't think I even started this channel until like end of November. So I might not even have it. They just show through how often these meetings happen and how little time they spend on it. Not that I'm complaining on
Hanson,
how
who's the deputy controller for
little
budget.
time
Would
we're
you like to
spending on it. It's
proceed
better
with
than an hour and a
proposal
half.
133 or 174 first? We have two tonight. Okay.
Also, they're going to have PDFs. I will have the links to the PDFs in the description below. I do that with every single video. And Mascari
Doesn't
did
matter.
not turn on his mic.
It's 133.
Amateur night.
Thank you, sir, and members of the committee. So Proposal 133 is part of our spring fiscal ordinance, where we ask the council as the fiscal body to appropriate funds into the 2024 budget that were not previously appropriated when we put the budget together last year. And the first chunk of this spring fiscal has to do with grant funding. So you may be aware that we apply for and receive grants across the enterprise at all times of the year, and sometimes our grant application and funding schedule does not match up with our budget schedule. And so that is part of what we have here tonight. The first slide is kind of an overview. I think the chairman's already alluded to it. We have $35.4 million in grants that we are asking you to appropriate, $7.8 million in departmental transfers and transfers from fund balance, and $35.9 million in supplemental income tax. And those second and third pieces of the pie, if you will, are part of Proposal 174. But this graphically represents the whole picture of what we're going to do tonight.
Is that not crazy? So either from the state or the federal government, wherever we're getting these grants from, that like, hey, all of a sudden here's $35 million for you. Give me back my money. Fix my pothole.
So the next slide gives you some detail about what these grants are and how they're going to be used.
Oh, can't see it.
I apologize for the small print, but we've got some detail here that we would like to share. The first table sets forth what we are doing with certain federal and state grant money that we have received through the course of the year outside of the budget. The first is a grant to the Marion County Coroner's Office, and those are federal funds that will be used by the coroner to fund additional staffing to achieve a certain level of accreditation, which is something that they would like to do. And then additionally, some services for families who have been affected by, or who have lost a loved one to opioid overdose. The prosecutor has $459,000 coming, and there are quite a few things that are part of this grant. But I can say that generally speaking, they are part of Drug-Free Marion County grants, a grant from the Joyce Foundation, a grant from the federal government, and a grant from the state of Indiana. And these are for training, personnel, and body cameras, and a paralegal. And
what does a prosecutor's office need with body cameras? That's a IMPD thing.
And services for their adult protective services department. So that is a total of $459,500 and change. Then we have a grant for the Marion County Election Board, which is a federal grant. It's $330,000, which will help them to fund not only election security, but additionally to support overseas voting, which is folks who are living abroad, still get to vote, costs money to process all of that, and so this money would go toward that.
They need $330,000 for people that are overseas. By the way, that's just Indianapolis, all right? That's not even the state. That's just Marion County. Marion County.
Then we have a grant for the Office of Finance and Management, which is $312,500, and that is primarily for grant cleanup. I will let Abby give a little bit of elucidation on that
Cleanup.
briefly.
Can't wait to hear this one.
OFM acts as a central repository at times for grant awards, and in this instance, we have a little bit more grant money left over that we now need to dole out again to other agencies. So we need to have the appropriation to be able to expend that to them. And that's for the Justice Assistance
What?
grant.
That sounds... Wait, what? We need more money to give away the money, huh? You know where this money's going to go to. Bullshit.
Next, we have a grant to the Office of Equity, Belonging, and Inclusion. The total is $210,000. That will fund an exchange program for students to travel to Mexico, as well as some community outreach activities. And then there is...
Wait. Let's go back to that.
Equity, Belonging, and Inclusion. The total is $210,000. That will fund an exchange program for students to travel to Mexico.
An exchange program for students to travel to Mexico. Why?
As well as some community outreach activities. And then there is a City Start grant that will help the Office of OEBI in a planning process for strategic initiatives to increase financial empowerment of residents across the city.
Oh, financial empowerment, huh? You mean teach people how to like balance their checkbook? Hey, don't spend money on things that you don't have money for.
And then finally, there's a little bit of money, $35,000, that comes from the Indianapolis Bar Association that will enable OEBI to put together some workshops for individuals who are seeking citizenship.
Oh, great. So tax money is going to be used for workshops to make illegals legal. Your tax-paying dollars, the dollars that are meant to fix infrastructure, public safety, etc., is going to be used on these third worlders that have that don't know how to poop in toilets to make sure that they become legal citizens. That's right. That's what our government's doing right now.
Then we have the fire department. This is about $65,000 that will be utilized or has been utilized to fund Task Force 1 initiatives who went to help. Is that the Hawaiian initiative or is that the
Winchester tornado.
Winchester tornado? So Task Force 1 sent personnel down to assist residents there, and that's for that funding. And then next we have $2.7 million for the Department of Public Works. One of those is a Safe Streets grant that will enable DPW to fund some pedestrian safety issues around schools. And then there is a grant to promote
Like what?
is from the United States Department of the Forestry, from the Department of the Interior, that will enable the Department of Public Works to work on trees, on planting new trees, on preserving our existing canopy, and all sorts of good things for the trees.
Oh,
So-
she did not care about that at all. Just good thing for the trees. No big deal. She has no fucks to give on that.
Finally, there's another little piece for the Marion County Election Board, which is really just kind of moving some money, but that's also part of overseas voting and voting security. Next, we'll move on to the opioid fund appropriations. So as you know, many cities and states have received allocations from opioid settlement funds, and we are among them. We receive a different amount every year. Some of it is restricted to funding things that would be abatement of the substance abuse crisis, and other of the fewer dollars are a little bit more flexible. But we have $2.55 million going to the Department of Metropolitan Development, and that will fund a couple of things. $2 million will go to the Housing to Recovery project, and this is a project that the city committed $6 million to, and this is our third and final installment. So this is honoring a commitment that we've previously made. These dollars are appropriate for that. And then there is a $550,000 going to another initiative, which is called Pathways to Recovery, and that is also a program that is designed to abate and mitigate the consequences of the opioid crisis. And then finally, we have a $500,000.
Really? Really? Sounds like it's going to go to a bunch of middle management so they can get their fat bonuses this year.
Grant going to the Office of Public Health and Safety, and that will be utilized to fund the master leasing program that is getting underway at the St. George Apartments. So we have 4.3 in federal and state grants and $3 million and change for the opioid fund. If you look at the next page, then we have the appropriation of ARPA dollars, and Addie's pretty much the expert on this, and so I'm going to turn it over to her to walk you through this requested appropriation.
So the final piece of our fiscal request is to appropriate interest earnings for ARPA. So as a reminder, our federal stimulus funding was awarded in two parts, 1 year, two tranches, 1 year apart, starting in 2021. We received a total of $420 million.
Printed out of nowhere. Printed out of nowhere.
Up to this point, we have not appropriated any interest earnings. Our ARPA allocations have to be obligated by December 31st of this year and spent by the end of 2026. In the preparation for that, we are asking for an appropriation of the estimated interest earnings through the end of this year. We're also asking to reallocate the appropriation between characters. Regarding the character reallocation, OFM has not altered the allocation by character since August of 2022, and in the last 18 months, things have just changed in some instances. The categories where we thought our expenditures would occur are happening in different places. Reallocating will allow us to continue moving forward with our planned projects. So while we are asking to appropriate $28 million in interest earnings, those funds are programmed by the bullet points below. We've used ARPA to pay for retention pays for public safety staff. We've provided additional funding to the Town and Terrace redevelopment project, which required the city to acquire properties, relocate current residents, and eventually demo and clear the site. And then finally, we have funded the Downtown Indy Public Safety and Cleanliness Initiative for additional time until the EED funds are available for the program.
You know who was making a ton of money off that? Downtown Indy Incorporated. They like I forgot how much it was, a couple $100,000 just off of fees, management fees. Just another big
With
scam.
that, we will take any questions.
I want to know about this
Thank
whole
you.
Mexico
I
thing.
have a couple questions. On the opioid fund, the excluded cities, do they apply for themselves, like Speedway, Lawrence, and Beech Grove? Or is there yours, do you actually hand it out?
No, they are receiving it directly from the Attorney General's office. If an entity is receiving less than $5,000 per the Attorney General's allocation, it does come to the county. And there is one unit of government that we are receiving. I think it's Southport, that their allocation is so small that it's coming to Marion County.
Okay. Last question from me. On the ARPA funds, $16 million in interest. How much we spent all the money, haven't we? We said it was $420 million. We've gone through that, haven't we?
We have allocated it, but it's not actually out the door. So as long as it's still in our bank accounts, we are
Still
earning
getting
interest on it.
Okay, pretty cool. Any questions of the council or others?
Dude, you've had that money in the account for like 2 years for that IACS, the Indianapolis Animal Care Care Service, Animal Care Services. You've had that money in there for 2 years. It was allocated, and they were supposed to have it in Sherman Park, but the place that did the engineering, the surveying on, I think it was VS Engineering, they gave Hogsett like thousands of dollars of campaign donations, and then they ended up being the engineering company checking it out. But if you go onto their website, if it even says in like Sherman Park, it would cost $12 million to even start building on there because that ground is so toxic, which is why they never built the IACS. And then when Shreve came in running for mayor, he is a lover of animals, and he said, one of the first things that I do is that we're going to get this building built for IACS. And then what happens a week later? Hogsett comes out with this thing and saying, oh, yeah, we got it figured out now. We know where the building is and blah, blah, blah. Well, that was months ago, and, still nothing's going on. Not even a shovel in the ground yet.
Come on, there we go. Councilor Mallory.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. On the Office of Equity, Belonging, and Inclusion, you mentioned a trip to Mexico. Do we know what that was?
Thank you.
I don't know,
For?
do we have anyone from OEBI here tonight who could specify? So that is and it's an exchange really, I believe, for students who are eligible for DACA treatment to
What?
go back and forth and spend time there, and also
Why?
For students from Mexico to come here. That's my understanding, but if you would like to have more detail.
Yeah, I
provide
would
that.
like to
Please,
know
thank
that. So let me get this straight. I
Provide
would
that.
like to
Please,
know
thank
that.
you.
So let me get this straight. Our tax money, I mean, you already have these anchor babies, right? And then they're saying, but I miss mi familia. And so we're using taxpayer money so these Mexican children can go back to Mexico and see their family. But on top of that, our taxpayer money is being used to get these illegals a citizenship. While all roads are jacked up, the stormwater's jacked up, stormwater infrastructure is jacked up, public safety is a problem, law enforcement's a problem, the whole judicial system in Indianapolis is a problem. And this is what we're spending our money on. This is why we can't get anything fixed around here. And because these dopes, this administration, this hog shit administration is wasting our tax dollars on trying to get more votes. Complete horse shit.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm going to
Thank you, Mr.
make a
Chair.
note right
I
now
was
to
curious
email
on
them.
the ARPA funds. For the Character 4, there were $31 million worth of money coming in. I was curious what that was, which part of the budget that was going towards.
The majority of it is going to go to the stormwater projects that we have allocated. The thing that's been a little bit of a problem, it's really more of a cash flow problem. It's kind of the projects that are ready first get to use the allocation. So, for example, the stormwater and some of the parks playground projects, we've had to kind of slow walk a little bit until we got enough allocation back into Character 4.
Any other questions, counselors? Anyone from the public who can speak on this? Seeing none?
Wasn't the director
Moved and seconded. All those
of
in favor say
OEBI in there?
Opposed? No. All right, thank you, sir. You get one more.
Yes. This is
Proposal 174, transfer the existing appropriation of various city county funds using various city county departments, agencies, and appropriation of $43,703,700.
Still doesn't have the mic on.
Not previously appropriated, including the not.
Oh, it's the Chief Diversity and Equity Officer. A little bit
Thank you,
different,
sir.
apparently.
So this consists of two pots of money. The first is about $7.8 million, which will be departmental transfers or appropriations from the general fund. The second, the big one, is our supplemental income tax distribution. And as you know, we get a certified distribution of income tax during the budget year, and then once the year is starting to come to an end, the state tells us, well, we actually have a little bit more in the trust fund than we thought we would, and so we're going to send you X number of dollars in the spring. And this is about the time of year that we receive those funds. We have kind of a projection of what they will be, and so we put together this bigger chunk of the supplemental, the $35.8 million, based upon those projections. I believe we have the money, it's in the bank. So. Let me start with the general fund and departmental transfer. So we have $852,000, and those dollars will be utilized to pay for soft costs associated with the construction of the new animal care services shelter that will be built on Raymond Street, I believe, in the chairman's district. We acquired that land, I think, late last year or early this year, and bless you. And some design work was done for when the project was originally going to be located in Sherman Park, but those designs need to be tweaked now that we're moving it to a new place. And so this would appropriate those funds for that purpose. Then we have $1.3 million for the Indianapolis Fire Department, and those funds will go to pay for an important piece of equipment called a gear washer.
What the
We
crap?
have IFD here, and I'm sure they could explain to you.
I
what
would
that
love
is,
to
but
hear
it's
about that.
a $60,000 cost. And then another $1 million that will be utilized to help pay for the completion of Station 20 on, is that on Emerson? I can't remember. By the Chi-K, yeah. Will help to complete the construction of that building. And then another portion of that will
garbage
go
facility?
toward completing Station 32 in Broad Ripple. We have seen some cost overages on that, primarily, I think,
Shocker.
due to construction costs generally are going up. We've been planning that one for a while. We had a delay because we had to get the appropriate certification from FEMA, and that took some time. So we need a little bit more money to finish that construction and get that over the finish line. Then we have a transfer to the Office of Finance and Management for the purpose of constructing a new tow yard, which is a very important project. It's taken longer to get off the ground than we had hoped. We have a tow yard that's currently located on the spot where we are going to build a solid waste garage. So these are dollars that we need to get the tow yard completed so that we can really start construction on solid waste in earnest.
That solid waste garage money was approved 2 years ago, and you guys haven't even started on that yet. This is just garbage administration once again. That money for the tow yard or for the garbage place was the same time that they approved the money for IACS, and they haven't even started building in anything. 2 years and not a shovel in the ground. Just put me in as mayor. We'll figure this whole thing out. A lot of people are getting fired. We're cutting the government in half.
Then we have $1.5 million for the Department of Metropolitan Development, and those are dollars that will be utilized for land acquisition. They do not have specific plans for what they will be acquiring, but I think they presented to Medic last night and explained that these are dollars from a purchase order that was issued last year that they didn't need to use. And so what they're asking is that now we'll appropriate it to them so they have this pot of money for strategic land acquisitions, which is something that they always wish for, and now they have a little bit of money to do that. And then ISA, there is money for them, $175,000, which will help them to digitize historic preservation documents, which is something that we've wanted to do for a long time. And so
We approved money on that a year or two ago. I thought it was like $200,000 that they approved.
it's not a ton of money, but it's an important project.
Wait, how much are they spending?
Dollars, which will help them to digitize historic that they always wish for, and now they have a little bit of money to do that. And then ISA, there is money for them, $175,000, which will
just a
help
little
them
money?
to digitize historic preservation documents, which is something that we've wanted to do for a long time.
Holy
so
jeez.
it's not a ton of money, but it's an important project. Then we turn to the supplemental income tax distribution, and the biggest chunk of that goes to the Department of Public Works. And Abby is most acquainted with how those dollars will be utilized, and so I will turn it over to her to walk you through that briefly.
Oh, just a sec. I don't want to get my numbers wrong. $23 million is going to go to the 5-year capital improvement plan that was adopted with the budget. So this is just us formalizing something that was already approved by the council, or, socialized, I guess. $5.2 million is going to support additional costs with the solid waste garage. This is actually going to do the site work. And then $500,000 is for the Road to Resources program.
So if you're not familiar with Road to Resources, that's a program where the city goes out into the neighborhoods. We choose a few different ones that are in need of some impact, and we do a few things there to fix it up. It's not a ton of money, but it's an important program that constituents are happy about. Then we have another $1.2 million in supplemental income tax to the Office of Finance and Management, and again, that's for additional tow yard expenditures. Then we have $3 million to the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services. Those are dollars that were originally appropriated for use by IFD. IFD was able to achieve some cost savings, and so they don't need that $3 million. So we had a long conversation with BNS, and they have a very long backlog of properties that are in need of being demolished. And there are different categories of those, but we have quite a few projects that are already adjudicated, and we can put them under contract just as soon as we have the money. And so that $3 million would be appropriated for that purpose. Then we have another $1.7 million for the fire department. As I sit here now, I forgot what that one is for. Is that for, that's for additional?
It is the the completion of IFD Station 20 and 32. We just had 2 different pots of money we're pulling from for those projects.
We're $3 million. We need $3 more million to get those 2 done. And so as.
Hey, we already got $3 million. We thought that was going to be fine. Turns out we need double that now. $6 million building, no big deal.
Set forth in the first chart, $1.3 million
It's just money,
is coming
man.
from
It's just
fund
money.
balance, and 1.7 will be coming
take it
from the
with
supplemental
you.
income tax distribution. We're almost there. Department of Metropolitan Development will receive $250,000 for contractual expenditures associated with some ongoing economic development projects. And then there's $2 million that will go to the Office of Finance and Management, and the purpose of that is to do design work for a proposed new Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department North District building. Again, we are going to have the designs done and the cost analysis done.
It's
and that'll
literally
cost
just a vacant lot. And then theirs is like $1.5 million. Is that what it was? Or 1.3? To have a tow yard? Really? Dude, who's getting paid under the table?
about $2 million. So that is what those funds would be appropriated for. So we have about 35.8 in supplemental income tax and about 7.8 in departmental transfers and money from the general fund. So I think that covers it. If I could answer questions, I'd be happy to.
Thank you, Ms. Burden. I guess my only question is, 2 or 3 years ago, we appropriated money for the DPW garage.
Yeah, what happened?
Is this a different garage?
Well, the money for the DPW garage has been in the bank for a while, right? I borrowed that money we borrowed that money together when I was at the bond bank, and it's been sitting in the bank because we
Okay.
haven't really started construction in earnest. I think we spent some of it on soft costs.
Why not?
So this is
We
a
broke ground.
You're dispersing for
Yeah,
that.
but we need a little bit more because, like with most things, some of our costs have increased, and so.
It's almost like if you would have started the whole process when the money was approved, you wouldn't have to be borrowing money anymore, could you? Or would you? Or would you have to? Or could you actually get it done in 2 years? And now you're just like, you know what, 2 years later, I guess we'll start getting this whole thing together. Not that you already had bids laid out, not that you already had the money approved. It's just disorganization as usual, and I'm glad that I'm able to put this to the forefront of everybody that out there that's watching right now. Hopefully you're still watching.
That
It's a
level of
short one, so.
flexibility.
Thank you. Yes, Councilor Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just had a question on looking at the public works budget, that being the overwhelming majority of this proposal, 174. So, and this could be a better question for the director, but, when we are going through estimating what our CI, what the capital improvement plan is over the 5-year cycle, right? How much of that and how does OFM estimate that's coming from the spring fiscal, knowing that could be great, right? We have an extra $35 million that we're working with, if I'm reading this correctly. Like, how do we go about estimating so then when we're going through the budget process, right, and we're projecting 5 years out, we're making kind of those obligations, like, how do we estimate that? Well, we think the spring fiscal is going to be X that can actually be used to plug that up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, here's a good idea. How about you just pretend that you don't have that money? That's easy enough, right? Hey, I know what my budget is, and if I get all this extra money during the spring, cool, now we could do other things with it. But let's just plan that we're not getting it.
Yes,
Okay.
we do a little bit of projection about what the spring fiscal might be. That's, of course, an inexact science. And when it comes to the capital improvement plan itself and budgeting for the future and thinking about that, that is an art, not a science. And I think Abby can probably elaborate on that a little bit, but our capital needs are always going to be more money than we have, right? So when we get money in the spring, we try to utilize as much of it as we can to chip away at our capital improvement plan. And we look forward as much as we possibly can to determine what it's going to take to get the most urgent needs taken care of now. So I think that's kind of it. Have I missed something, or would you?
No, I think I would say the exact same thing. When we're building the capital improvement plan and we're trying to figure out how much supplemental we have, I am always extremely cautious. To your point, something changes, I need to give myself a little bit of flexibility to bend if I need to. So we always make the assumption, I can't even tell you what percent because I don't really know. We just always are a little cautious about what we think our supplemental will be so that we are not obligating ourselves or stating that we think we will have more than we will.
Okay, and so some of this, and again, this may be a better question on Thursday, Director, I'm not putting you on the spot. Are we accelerating some projects, or are we kind of meeting the reality that construction costs are going up? Maybe kind of what the controller was getting at. Yeah, thank you, Director.
See, this is what happens when you're a spoiled little rich kid and you've never really had any life experience and you're just a trust fund baby dipshit that doesn't know how to control money. You're just like, oh, mommy, daddy, you give me money? Okay, I spend it. Oh, I'm always going to be taken care of? Okay. This guy, ass clown. Trust fund baby ass clown.
Yeah, thank you. Director Hergood, thanks for the question, Councilor Nielsen. So, as has been described, we have placeholder numbers in the 5-year capital plan. We just took this a similar concept to the Public Works Committee last month, right, as it related to issuing the debt. So we had that $50 million line item. And so for us to fulfill.
Yeah, there he is. Oh, that's right, diversity.
That we have.
You think he is
for us
still
to
though.
execute the contracts that we already have, pay down the invoices that we're currently collecting on projects. From a cash flow perspective, we need this money. This is money that we're anticipating in our checking account this year, so to speak, to cut the checks for whether it's a contractor out in the field, whether it's somebody doing survey work, scoping, design, whatever that work is. These are dollars that we need today to continue to deliver on the commitments we've made. So there's no new projects here. With the one asterisk of this year, because I think as Abby and Sarah can articulate better than I can, this is something that we've done for several years now. Because as all of you know, capital projects, from cradle to grave, so to speak, have multi-year life cycles, right? And so you have to plan out and budget out 5 years ahead. This is the first year that Senate Bill 282 has gone into effect, where the gas tax funding formula was changed. Thank you to Senator Freeman and folks at the State House who.
Hey, Jesse Brown, Jesse Commie Clown Brown. Weren't you just bitching about Aaron Freeman not long ago to the point where now you have a candidate against him? Well, guess what? Director Hoagie over here, he actually likes Aaron Freeman. And it's going to be great when we start talking about eliminating the gas tax, because these Democrats are going to freak the fuck out because they need that gas tax money. I will be surprised if any Democrat goes against the gas tax about eliminating it. Oh my God, it would be so fun.
That charge, right? So now there's an $8 million increase per year. We're estimating an $8 million increase that we're going to get from the new distribution. They asked us to match that. So that state statute, that language that fixed the road funding formula, asked us to match that $8 million. So part of this COA distribution is that match that otherwise we wouldn't have had because it wouldn't have been budgeted for.
Thank you. Any other questions from councilors? Councilor Boots.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Has there been a site selected for this potential new North District building for IMPD?
There are discussions that it could be built up on the Meadows site on property owned by Health and Hospital Corporation. And so I don't know that we have actually changed, the land hasn't changed hands, but we have an intention of building it there.
Any early plans on what to do with the existing building?
Of IMPD North District?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know.
Councilor Roberts.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for the very thorough presentation. It's impressive how you managed to have a lot of information for each bullet point.
Skin on my teeth.
Two of the points, and one of them was the North District headquarters. Obviously, it's very needed. One of the things I hear about from IMPD officers, North District is the necessity for that. I was just curious on both that and the proposed new animal shelter, both of which are in the supplement income tax on here. Both are Category 3 costs. I was just curious why the IMPD headquarter was facilitated through you guys and OFM, whereas the animal shelter is facilitated through BNS. I know you guys manage all of the city buildings, but I was curious why there's the differentiation there. Thank you.
Sure. I think it's a subtle but important point. So BNS, they really are hands-on in how their facility should be designed and how it's used and all of those things. A police station is a little bit more of a generic, of course we want to make it fit their needs, but it's a little bit more of a generic property. And so OFM, through its real estate division, is, I think, more well-suited to manage the planning and construction of that than perhaps, asking IMPD to take time away from its work and take people away from their details to worry about their building. We'll take care of it for them.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, councilors? Seeing anyone from the public? Yes.
Steve Quick, Aspen Local 725 President. I just want to say two things. One, I want to thank all the councilors that took time to come out to the department and see the employees, see the equipment, see the building, and the condition that things are in. Also, that solid waste building was built, I think, in 1949. It's time for a new building. The employees deserve it. The management deserve it. And I appreciate you guys' support on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dude, it was supported 2 years ago. Blame that the council for not getting it done. I'm fine with that. Why isn't anybody putting any pressure on DPW to
Anyone
get it
else from the
going?
public? Seeing none. Is there anyone from Business Neighborhood Services here?
Yes.
Okay, after the meeting, I'd like to talk to you. Thank you. Consider a motion. You have another question?
No.
Oh.
I was going to move that we push proposal 174 to the full council with due pass recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank
Thank
you,
you very
sir.
much. Any other business for the committee? We are adjourned.
Anything else going on? No? Everybody just kind of goofing around? Wonderful. All right, well, that was it. You see our taxpayer money going to illegals and anchor babies instead of going to fixing our roads or law enforcement or all the other things that we need to get done. More bullshit as usual. As the budget season starts, though, it's going to get really, really interesting of what our money is going to be spent on. And I'm going to email the minority people, inclusion people, whatever they're called, OEBI, and see if I can get information. I would be surprised if they actually emailed me back. I emailed DPW and the trustee's office today about if I were to fill a pothole without DPW, would I get fined? Because I've said this multiple times. I have emailed DPW 3 times. Or not email, but I have contacted the Mayor's Action Center to get the pothole fixed, and DPW still has not done it. So I'm over it. I'm filling it myself. I'm going to get it done this weekend during race weekend. Since I'm like literally a mile away from the track, I will have plenty of time. I'm basically like stuck here until the roads will be back open on Sunday. So, until next time, I'll have the next video out tomorrow.